This is your City Council Roundup, a recap of what's happening at City Hall with John Ongaro. The views expressed in this program are solely of those of the host and not necessarily those of the radio station or its partners.
Well, no council meeting last night. We had a night off after 13 hours of council meetings over the last 2 weeks. Last night was a nice break, but we still need a roundup. And look who's here. City Manager John Collin. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome back to the fancy studios. The view is lovely. Last time you were here, it was black. It was dark. Now you get to see the view.
Yeah, and I get to see the sunrise this morning.
It's kind of nice. Kind of nice. Thanks for coming in. No meeting last night after the marathon. Everybody probably needed a little bit of recoup time after the 13 hours in the last 2 weeks. So it was nice to have a break last night. But there's a couple of things that we should probably go over. And you're the right guy for the job.
Of course, we're going to go over.
Of course,
what a surprise!
Yeah, let's talk about first the. And I'm not doing it, and I refuse to say any speculation as to what the major retail development is that's going on the corner of Golf Links and the Harbor Expressway. But it was a big deal last week when the zoning was approved, and it looks like things are moving along with that. Where are we at with this process? Because now the question will become, what else needs to happen for the shovels to hit the ground? It's not like it's happening this summer. What's next in that process?
Well, what's next? It's really up to the developer at this point and his proponent,
right,
to move the project forward. You're right when you say it was a big step last week with the zoning approved, and we had to make a zoning change because there is a gas bar,
right,
and that property was not zoned for a gas bar or garage. So that has happened. So now there's no there's no restrictions for the planned development to go into that position. What has to happen, though, there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of the site control plan,
right,
and all of the bits and pieces where everything goes, making sure it's all according to code, all according to our standards, etc. That work will continue at the pace that the developer wants to continue at.
So the city has nothing to do with that part. It is now their job to jump through these hoops to get the rest of the work done and decide if they're even coming.
Sure. Well, I mean, they have signaled that they're coming. The timeline is up to them.
Okay.
We will, of course, help them as much as possible, so we will be involved. But when they actually choose to submit building permits and when they actually start to build is entirely up to them.
But it will be a process. The odds are we're not going to see equipment on that site this summer.
I don't think I want to make that comment yet.
Okay.
It really does depend on the developer and his proponent. And when you're talking about these sorts of companies, when they choose to go, they can go pretty quick.
Right.
So I truly do not know. I'm not trying to be coy. I just don't know.
And they've done this a million times before. They know the process. They know what they got to do. So it really is up to them. The rest of Innova Park, which has been sitting empty for decades, may also now see even more improvement or more development in that area. Is that part of the long-term plan to try to attract more people to Innova Park?
Well, I think it's fair to say that anytime you have a large entity that plops itself on a piece of turf, you're then going to have spin-offs. Mm-hmm. You're then going to have other entities that plop themselves around it. So yeah, we are cautiously hopeful that we will actually see spin-off companies establish themselves in the area because of this development.
That could be a fairly significant economic impact on the city because, as was mentioned in the meeting last night, the taxes or the revenue from taxes could be upwards of $1 million a year.
For that particular property, and that doesn't include any of the spin-offs that happen around it.
So a lot could happen with Innova Park. Let me ask you this. You've been in this job for almost a year. That development, that area has been empty for decades. What's different now that all of a sudden something is happening in Innova Park? What's the change?
I'm not able to put my finger on one specific thing, but I think the business community is waking up to the reality that Thunder Bay is a great spot, first of all. And secondly, that we are now open for business and we are clearing all sorts of barriers and everything else to make it as simple as possible. And the opportunity is here. The value proposition is here for Thunder Bay. Mm-hmm. Whether you're talking about the fact that our housing is relatively affordable compared to the rest of Ontario, or whether you're talking about just our location in terms of being in the center of North America, or perhaps now I should say the center of Canada, since half of North America
Canada's
doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm being very sarcastic this morning, but I think it's just a combination of a whole bunch of things, but the potential is here, and business is starting to see that.
Your team and along with the CEDC has been reaching out and getting a lot of calls. My understanding is that there's been a lot of people that are showing interest in the community all of a sudden. Well, not all of a sudden, but now sees those values. This has to have something to do with the growth plan and your growth plan and your team's growth plan in encouraging these businesses to come, whether it be retail development or what's happening at the waterfront with the plants that are opening. There's a lot happening, but this has taken a long time, and there's a lot of hard work with that.
There's a tremendous amount of work going on. I do want to give a shout out to the CEDC. They are our economic development arm.
Right.
So they're the ones who try to open doors and make those initial contacts. Once those initial contacts are made and fostered a little bit, then the city kicks in and we open up our doors and all of our development team to help try to move a development along. Realistically, for any file like the large retail,
whatever it is. Yep.
We're probably talking 50 people or so are involved in a file of that size.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. And it is a testament to one of the things that actually you and I off the air have talked about before, that I think that the city can do a better job of talking about these positives, because there is a lot of these things that are happening that regular folk like us don't see every day. You see it because of the level that you're at, the CEDC sees it, but we don't see a lot of that opportunity. And so these are really good news stories for the city.
They are, and we need to get much better at telling our story.
Yeah.
We need to get much better at explaining the value proposition here. That's on us to do, but also the community needs to help us and speak positively about the city. And the roads are horrible in Thunder Bay.
Just Fort William Road.
It's not helpful, right?
Right.
Our roads need work. Our pavement condition index is 7 out of 10, average.
Yeah, not bad.
That details that we've got some work to do.
Yep.
But they're not horrible.
Yeah.
But when we speak that way, it's not helpful when you're trying to attract people to the city.
Yep. Well, Fort William Road is horrible. I just
sure.
I just want to tell you that part.
It's like the stump in your front yard, but I won't go there.
Oh, you heard that?
Oh, yeah.
It's been 4 years.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We are doing something about it, by the way.
When?
We're just letting it rot.
Oh, it's rotted.
That's doing something.
It's killed all of my grass.
And
I'm going to
then
need some
it'll turn
sod.
to compost.
Yes.
And then it'll make your grass that much greener.
Okay.
So we're helping you.
Well, all the grass is dead right now around it. But anyway. Okay. That was fun. All right. Now I'm going to watch the stump now. The positivity, I appreciate that, and I agree with it. The next topic, though, is one that is been a lot of comments on it online and in your meetings. This ongoing discussion about the temporary village. First of all, I will say, and I said on the roundup a couple of weeks ago, Cynthia Olson, Director of Strategy and Engagement, and Riley Willinen, the encampment response lead, have been exceptional in your meetings in explaining the work and the process of this temporary village. The amount of work that they have done has been huge. Good on them, and good on them for being able to answer the questions as well as they do in these meetings. But here we are again, and you were very clear in the meeting last week that if we don't get our ducks in a row here, we got to get this approved or we're going to lose that funding. It's now on to the fourth location. This team, again, has done all of their homework, but council has flip-flopped again after pulling Cumberland Street out of a hat last week or a couple of weeks ago to now going back to Cam River Park. In your opinion, moving forward on Cam River Park seems to be the most logical thing to do next, but it's going to get resistance again. What happens Monday night?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen Monday night. I feel obliged, though, to make a couple key points. First of all, a temporary village is not just a tent encampment with a fence around it.
That's right.
All right. In fact, there'll be no tents.
There'll
There'll be no
buildings.
garbage.
It's all
There'll be-
buildings.
Yeah, it'll be proper shelters, all right, that can accommodate people 24 hours a day. They're never going to have to leave. They will be assigned a shelter, and that will be their home,
Right.
if you will, for lack of a better way of describing it. They will be cared for. They will be fed. So all of a sudden now you have at least 100 folks in this city who are no longer starving and wondering where they're going to sleep overnight. That will be very powerful for the city. It will be properly kept. It will look good.
Clean.
Not great. It'll look clean. All right. It's not a high-end development by any stretch of the imagination. but it will complement the environment and it will help those who need help. So I'm certainly hopeful that council will approve of the location. Whether or not they approve our recommendation next Monday night, time will tell.
Right.
It is a good location that we're going to recommend. Cam River Park is a good location. It was one of the first sites we had our eyes on. It was at the top of our list. Way back last fall, it was number one on our list. We couldn't make the numbers work because we made a commitment to council that we would not spend more than $5 million.
And you said last week that it looks like it's about $5.5 million for Cam River Park. It may not be the end of the world. It's $500,000, but at least it's progress, and at least. And I'm glad you brought it up the way that you did, because with all of the people that are everybody is going to be against where it goes. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's about helping people, and it is doing the right thing to help those in need, period. It doesn't matter where it goes. It's the point of why we're doing it. But that park has been terribly neglected over the last number of years. Well, with the James Whalen been parked there for as long as it was, and there's a beautiful statue down there, and it's gorgeous boardwalk along the river, but we haven't done anything with it. So because the encampment is there now, it makes sense to put it where people are. Is that kind of one of the goals? This is where people are comfortable in living. Why not put it there?
Well, that's one of the compelling arguments for you using that site. There's already an encampment there.
Right.
There's already a population there. But you brought up an interesting point about Cam River Park being neglected. I would encourage everybody to cast their eyes forward about 5 or 6 years. What will have happened at that point in Cam River Park is all the utilities will have been extended to the location. Power, water,
which is not
sewer.
there now.
None of it's there now.
Right.
To the tune of about $2 million, by the way. All right. That will all have been extended to that location. So now when you talk about rejuvenating and revitalizing the Cam River Park as a park that has a gorgeous dock and everything else, the utilities are there, the services are there. So now you're talking about the possibility of permanent washrooms, maybe some sort of pavilion, etc. The sky's the limit because you're no longer constrained by lack of services.
And that's one of the reasons why doing it on city property is a benefit to the city, because now it's our property that we're going to service that we could use long term.
That's correct.
Excellent. All right. Well, there's a bit of an elephant in the room with Cam River Park.
Of course there is.
And I haven't heard anybody bring this up yet, but so let me be the first. Here we go again. There is a very large piece of metal in Cam River Park known as the Via Rail train that has been sitting there for 25 plus years. There's not much paint left in it. It has not moved. It has not been touched in decades. In order for Cam River Park to develop, does something have to happen with the Via Rail train? Are we getting ourselves into the James Whalen 2.0?
Something has to happen with that train.
It can't stay there.
Point. Well, I suppose it could in some form of a revitalization plan down the road where you gussy it up and make it look good, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think you would ever be able to afford refurbishing the interior of it. But maybe there's a model whereby it could stay there. I just don't know. We have not looked at any sort of conceptual plans for the revitalization of Cam River Park at this time. I know others have, but the municipality itself hasn't. But it's something we will have to look at in the future. And yes, we will have to address the Via Rail train that's there.
So in the Cam River Park plans, and again, I haven't seen where, I just know the park. These buildings, it's called Sailors Park there. There's a couple of monuments on that boardwalk. It is beautiful. But there's a parking lot there. I'm assuming that the parking lot is where the temporary village would go if it was approved?
So again, we have to do proper site planning. What we are going to do, though, is protect the dock.
Right.
That is to say, keep it open to the public. So the fence for the temporary village will be somewhere between the dock and the parking lot kind of area, so that those who still want to walk along the dock, which is a very long dock, almost a boardwalk, if you will.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Can do so.
Yeah.
I mean, right now it's not used hardly at all because nobody feels comfortable walking down there. But again, the village with a fence, properly cared for, properly clean, etc. Maybe some people will feel comfortable walking that boardwalk.
So it all comes down to Monday night. The direction from council last week was for your team to look at that and the conservation area location on Fort William Road and come back with the final recommendation. Again, as mentioned, you were very clear last week that if you don't have an approval or a ratified approval by next week, not next week, the week after, the first week of May, that there is risk of losing this $2.8 million worth of funding. So when it comes back on Monday night, regardless of what it is, you firmly suggested to council you need to approve it one way or another on Monday. Is that still in the cards?
Well, they will need to approve it one way or the other on Monday if they do not want to be at risk of losing the $2.8 million. I want to remind you that when this was all first approved, the approval was for a municipal cap of $5 million.
That's right.
That 2.8 is going towards
That
reducing that cap,
Right.
right? It's one of the reasons why I'm comfortable enough reintroducing Cam River Park, even if it's 500,000 above
You're
the
getting
original
something.
$5 million, because
Right.
we're getting 2.8.
Right.
It was not in the original plan. But yeah, after Monday night, there is a very high risk that we will lose the $2.8 million if we have not decided on a location.
This city council approved a 10-point plan for helping. Let's just dumb it down. For helping those in need. This is part of that plan. This is something that they approved. You would be exceptionally disappointing if they didn't follow through, because this is an important part of that plan. How are the other points to that plan coming along with your team as far as helping those in need and setting up services and programs for them?
Well, we continue to work the rest of the plan. We can't execute any of it until we have clarity on the temporary village.
What happens to the plan if the village doesn't go through?
It needs to be rewritten.
Start over again.
Start over is probably stating it a bit too strongly, but it needs to be rewritten. There are elements of the plan we simply cannot do if we don't have the foundation of the temporary village. For example, this whole notion of moving people along. Well, you have to ask yourself the question, move them along to where?
To where? Yeah.
Right? So we need that capacity that the temporary village gives us, plus the designated encampments that we're going to set up in the city. Without the temporary village, we wouldn't be able to reduce the number of designated encampments in the city.
Right.
So it would be a rethink of the plan.
The biggest pushback that I've seen online, because, everybody's an expert sitting at a keyboard. The biggest pushback that I saw was that nobody is being forced to use this temporary village, that they still can set up tents. However, the answer to that is the city does have a bylaw now of where these encampments can go, and that they are, can I say that they're enforceable? If they don't want to move to the temporary village, they can't just put a tent anywhere. There are designated spots.
The city will have a bylaw that does that. We don't
It's
have that
not done
right
yet.
now.
Okay.
All right. Once we have that bylaw, then yes, with dignity and respect,
Absolutely.
we will be able to move people along if we have the temporary village and the designated encampment areas. And when somebody says, no, I don't want either, I want to plop my tent here instead, respectfully and with dignity, we will move them along. They will not be allowed to put their tent there.
Last piece of this, again, online, and I witnessed it myself, actually. Danny and I were just talking about it earlier this morning. There is a lot of cleanup that needs to be done in some of these areas and some of these parks, one of them being McVicker Creek, which is a really sad state just up the street from us here. Cam River Park on this side of the tracks. Also, the garbage and the bit of destruction that's in place now, how is that being handled? What's the city's plan for
Well,
those
first
two
of all,
spots?
we do have a contractor that's going up around and cleaning up what they can. Until the last couple of days, what people don't realize is most of that garbage was frozen to the ground.
That's right.
So it couldn't be moved.
Right.
So as the weather warms up and as the ground thaws, our contractor, that we have hired, is going around to all of the known encampment areas and is doing what they can to pick up the garbage. So over the next week or two, you're going to see a significant improvement, again, as the ground thaws.
It's a lot of work and a lot of work to be done. Well, this has been very informative. You've brought a lot of good and positive answers to the things that we're doing. Some good progress. Now that we're almost out of time, do you have anything else that you want to announce today? Like any breaking news any secrets you want to tell?
Sure, I'm going to tell secrets on this
That's
show
not-
instead of
not
in front
this
of
one.
council.
Yeah,
there's a good plan, John.
That's not a good idea, no. Well, I thank you for this time. I think it's important, especially because from the administrative side, we talk a lot about what happens at council, but to hear what's going on in the workings of administration, I think is really important, because I think that there's a lot of missed opportunity to talk about the good that's being done by your team behind the scenes. It's not all about what happens on Monday night. There's a lot of really hard work going on in your administrative team, and thank you on behalf of all of us for this work, because we are seeing the fruits of your labor. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that's it. We'll be back again next week. There is another meeting on Monday night, round up again next Tuesday.
Don't go anywhere. You're